Well, good morning, Beaumont. Got a letter here from one of my children's friends back when they were growing up. He lived just down the street. His name's Chris Desermo, and I thought it was very insightful, so I wanted to share it with you today. He said, I've put $3 in my gas tank just to get by, and other times I've filled it up without thinking twice. He said, I've had to ask for rides, and I've also been the one giving them. I've lived with a kitchen full of groceries, and I've opened the fridge to nothing but hope. I've given clothes to those in need, and I've worn the kindness of others on my own back. I stood at the register without a care of the total, and I've quietly put things back, counting every dollar. I've paid my rent in full and on time, and then I've scraped together what I could days late and stressed. I've lent money to others without hesitation, and I've humbled myself to ask others for help. Life ebbs and flows for all of us. Some waves hit harder, some blessings last longer, but no one is immune to struggle or above grace. We're all just trying to make it through. So if you're up today, be grateful and be generous. And if you're down, hold on, you're not alone. No one is better than anyone else, no matter the size of your house, the size of your car, or the digits in your bank account. Our graves will all be essentially the same size. Stay humble, be kind, love people while they're here, because in the end, how we treat each other is what truly matters. Thank you, Chris, for that. And now this. Freedom1300.com doesn't run on sunshine and well water, my friends. We need you. First of all, please share this show and the station on all of your social media. The Golden Triangle is on the cusp of the best decade in history, and we need you to be part of it. We need you to advertise right here on Freedom 1300 AM in Beaumont. If you are the best at what you do and your client base is in the Golden Triangle or southwestern Louisiana, this is the place for you to be advertising. It's inexpensive and affordable. Call me, Doc, today at 281-914-1331 and join the team at AM 1300. We still need a major sponsor with studio naming rights. We need a sponsor for the 1 hour show every Saturday. You can call Doc at 281-914-1331 and get in on the ground floor with AM 1300. Be sure to tell your friends at church, Rotary, at BMI, the Lions, the Eagles, the American Legion, and the VFW. AM 1300 is the place to be. I know most of you don't watch CNN unless you're in the airport, but of course they've lost most of those airport contracts now, so a lot of people aren't seeing CNN at all. In fact, some of my cohorts here in the conservative podcasting business are having 10 to 15 times more viewers than Anderson Cooper does. But Anderson Cooper is apparently well paid. Not only does he work for the CIA, so he gets a check from them every year, Mockingbird operation. On Thursday, the New York Post reported that Cooper rakes in an absurd $18 million a year. And without further explanation, any reasonable person following the news cycle over the last decade knows that it's probably not worth that much. No one at CNN is worth that, to be honest, though Scott Jennings should be paid handsomely for dealing with all of the leftist talking heads and DEA hires on that show. The figure looks worse in context. Following fellow CNN host of The Source with Caitlin Collins. Caitlin Collins gets only 1/5 of that, and of course, she's dramatically overpaid at that point. The Post cited viewership Tuesday showing that Anderson Cooper draws on average 647,000 total viewers on a daily basis. Collins brings in 829,000 viewers in her 8 to 9 time slot. So Anderson 360 has a smaller audience with a host that's paid 5 times more money. Cooper's salary is in the crosshairs after Monday's news of parent company Warner Brothers Discovery splitting into 2 entities initiated by CEO David Zaslav. Chief Financial Officer Gunnar Wiedenfeld has been tasked with looking for ways to save money under the new banner of global networks, which includes CNN. Truth is, every host at CNN is dramatically overpaid. Per Puck, host of The Lead with Jake Tapper, he is also making low 8 figures. The level of trust the public puts in major media networks is not commensurate to their compensation for these hosts. The decentralization of news comes as more independent journalists, podcasters, YouTubers, and X accounts are offering new ways for people to stay informed. Americans no longer just sit in front of their TV after a long day's work and tune into the 5 o'clock news like they used to. YouTube and Rumble host a number of influential names in media like Tim Pool, who's got millions, Steve Crowder, also doing quite well. Even for the left-wing audiences, organizations like the Young Turks on YouTube pull in a massive following. The Young Turks has over 6 million subscribers. Cooper is not worth $18 million for where CNN sits in terms of respectability and watchability. Under global networks, it wouldn't be surprising to see some new talents making nowhere near that amount, but Cooper himself deserves a pay cut, or perhaps he should just be cut altogether. I'm very concerned about the fact that the major news medias all still have their broadcast licenses because under the terms of their agreement, they have to operate in the best interest of the American people. And can you honestly say that ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and MSDNC are operating in the best interest of the American people? I'm not even sure that Fox, with their somewhat center-left coverage, is serving the American people. I would like to see those broadcast licenses jerked. I would like to see them forced to sell off their assets. And let's have the new media. Let's let them have a shot at it for a change. I think we'd all be way better off. But, of course, this is also why you listen to Freedom1300.com.
You know, we need people to remember us and think good things about us every day. We need to give gifts to friends, loved ones, and customers, and that's why you need to go see my friends Brian and Christina at crazynestcreations.com. There you will find amazing custom t-shirts, coffee mugs, and incidentals that are going to make their day. You can find a t-shirt for your honey from the great Stylized Owl collection, or something for your friend or client or customer to cement your relationship for years to come. Don't forget, you have to get reelected to be grandma, grandpa, aunt, or uncle of the year, and that requires gifts. So crazynestcreations.com gives you an inexpensive way to engender warm and loving feelings for a lifetime. crazynestcreations.com, crazynestcreations.com, crazynestcreations.com. Go there today. Get those goodies for your friends, loved ones, and clients. You won't regret it, and they're going to remember you.
The Southern Baptist Convention voted at its annual meeting in Dallas on Tuesday to end legalized same-sex marriage in America. Of course, this should have happened 20 years ago. More than 10,000 church delegates gathered for the event, which they overwhelmingly voted in support of overturning Obergefell versus Hodges, which is a made-up setup case in order to get the homosexuals preferential treatment. The 2015 Supreme Court ruling claimed that so-called same-sex marriage is a fundamental right, which of course it isn't. It's a bastardization of everything that is holy and honest. Each year, the Southern Baptists gather to discuss and debate proposals submitted by Southern Baptist churches across the country. This year's two-day meeting was kicked off at the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, and attendees voted for the first time on a resolution to legally end homosexual marriage. Legal rulings like Obergefell v. Hodges, and policies that deny the biological reality of male and female are nothing more than legal fictions. They undermine the truth of God's design and lead to social confusion and injustice, according to the resolution. And of course, we know that's all true. Resolutions Committee Chair Andrew Walker recognized it's a long road ahead. He said there is very little desire, even on the conservative side, to go to bat for marriage in this particular culture. But I also want to stress to the press, while we're making a policy and legal statement, I'm clear-eyed about the difficulties and headwinds in this resolution. He emphasized that this is a long-term battle, however, and the Baptists are not going to stop. The resolution was also called to defund planned infanticide. This is very important because planned infanticide doesn't intend for anyone to ever be a parent. In total, the Southern Baptist Convention voted on 8 resolutions on the floor at its annual meeting. The other resolutions called for banning pornography, increasing legislation on sports betting, banning chemical pill abortions, and recognized the importance of international religious freedom. We encourage the Southern Baptist Convention, leaders and entities and pastors to continue to educate our churches on the deceptive sin of gambling. This through biblical instruction and practical resources while providing compassionate support and counseling to those who struggle with gambling addictions and the consequences of that. We need the churches to preach. We need the churches to preach because we have these problems in America directly related to the silence of the pulpit. And now this. In other news, the International Atomic Energy Agency has confirmed reports of radioactive contamination at one of Iran's nuclear sites that was damaged by Israel's missile strikes. The chief, Rafael Grossi, told the United Nations Security Council on Friday that the damage they inflicted on Iran's Natanz nuclear facility has resulted in some radioactive contamination. They destroyed the above-ground part of the Natanz nuclear facility. There are no indications of damage to the underground enrichment facilities at the site, but the power outage may have affected the centrifuges. There is radioactive and chemical contamination at the site. Grossi added, however, the contamination was manageable. Radiation levels outside the Natanz facility remained unchanged. The type of radioactive contamination present inside the facility, which is mainly alpha particles, can be managed with appropriate protective measures. Iran's Atomic Energy Organization said the site suffered only minor damage and there was no threat of a leak. Grossi said he plans to visit Iran anyway to check the thing out. He said, I call on all parties to exercise maximum restraint to avoid further escalation. I should point out to you that Iran has long called for the total destruction of Israel, which it calls the Little Satan. And Israel is completely justified in defending itself against someone who has said that they are going to kill them. So anyway, we hope that they get this problem solved. The Board of Governors finds that Iran's many failures to uphold its obligations since 2019 and to provide the Atomic Energy Commission with full and timely cooperation regarding undeclared nuclear material and activities at the multiple undeclared locations in Iran constitutes non-compliance with its obligations under the Safeguards Agreement with the agency. Iran denied it's ever pursued a nuclear weapon, but the conflict rages on. By the way, if you missed my Saturday show, it was pretty excellent. You should go to rumble.com, and I have a copy of it there. Doc Greene on Rumble. See you guys tomorrow. You have a choice, and you chose Freedom 1300.